When Daniel was 15, his world fell apart because of one lie. He had grown up believing his father was strict but fair, someone who valued hard work and honesty. But all that changed when his stepmother, Clara, decided she wanted him out of their lives. Daniel's mother had died of cancer when he was only 4, and 3 years later, his father remarried. At first, Clara acted like a caring stepmom, always smiling, baking cookies, asking about school. But deep down, she was only pretending. Once her own daughter, Lily, was born, her true colors began to show. Daniel's father, Mr. Lewis, ran a construction business and was always busy. When he was home, he expected perfection. "Why isn't this an A?" he'd snap when Daniel brought home a B+. "Why aren't you starting on the basketball team?" Even when Daniel tried his best, it was never enough. But with Lily, it was different. She could fail a test, and they'd still hug her and tell her, "It's okay, sweetheart, you tried." Clara treated her daughter like a princess and treated Daniel like he didn't belong. Looking back, Daniel realized he might have had ADHD. He couldn't sit still in class or focus for long, but instead of helping him, his father just yelled. "Why can't you be normal like your sister?" he'd say, while Clara stood nearby, nodding like she agreed. When his father worked late, Clara was in charge, and that was when things got worse. She'd forget to make enough food for him or wash his clothes wrong on purpose, so they'd shrink. If Daniel complained, his father said he was causing trouble again. Clara had spent years convincing him that Daniel was the problem. She played mind games, moving his things, blaming him for breaking stuff, lying about his behavior. "He's always so careless," she'd say sweetly, and his father would sigh in disappointment. Daniel felt trapped in a house where the truth didn't matter. The more he tried to explain, the deeper the hole got. One afternoon, taking his usual shortcut through Greenfield Park, Daniel saw something that changed everything. Near the old gazebo, Clara was with a man he recognized, a muscular guy named Martin who used to visit their house for charity meetings. Daniel froze when he saw them kissing. Not a quick peck, a long, intimate kiss. His heart pounded. Clara looked up, and he thought she might have seen him. He ran home, shaking, unsure what to do. He wanted to tell his father, but what was the point? Mr. Lewis would never believe him. Clara had spent years poisoning his mind. "He's jealous of Lily," she'd always say. So, Daniel kept quiet. But soon, he began noticing things. Lily's reddish-brown hair, her hazel eyes, the way she didn't look like either of them. He tried to ignore it, but the truth was staring him in the face. One night, he got up to get water and heard Clara whispering on the phone. "He's starting to notice," she said. Daniel froze by the kitchen door. "He thinks she's his, but we both know the truth, Martin." His heart dropped. She was talking about Lily. His father wasn't her real dad. Daniel accidentally made a noise and Clara called out, "Danny, you shouldn't be up so late." He ran back to his room, terrified. From that night on, Clara kept a closer eye on him. Whenever he passed Lily's room, she appeared from nowhere. She'd whisper things to his father, things that made him look bad. "He's been acting strange," she'd say. Once, Daniel was helping Lily with her homework when Clara rushed in, grabbed Lily, and said sharply, "I'll help her instead." That night, his father wouldn't even look him in the eye at dinner. 2 weeks later, Daniel came home from school and saw 2 police cars outside. Inside, Clara was crying on the couch while his father stood nearby, red with anger. "What's going on?" Daniel asked. A police officer motioned for him to come to the kitchen. "Daniel," the officer said carefully, "your stepmother reported that you touched your sister inappropriately." Daniel's world stopped.
"What? No."
"That's not true," he shouted, but the officer just kept asking questions, horrible questions. Clara's fake sobs echoed through the house. Daniel tried to defend himself, but the officers kept pressing. "Where did you touch her? How many times?" The words made him sick. He could hear Clara sobbing in the living room, saying things like, "I should have seen the signs." His father stood there silent, his fists clenched, his face red. "Dad, please," Daniel begged. "She's lying. She's trying to get rid of me because I saw her with another man." That was the moment everything exploded. His father roared, Don't you dare make up stories about my wife. The police didn't find any evidence, but that didn't matter. The damage was done. Daniel's father pointed toward the stairs. You have 10 minutes to pack your things. If you ever come near Lily again, I'll kill you myself. Clara stood behind him with a tiny, victorious smirk. Maybe someday you'll get the help you need, she said, pretending to sound sympathetic. Daniel stuffed a few clothes into a garbage bag, grabbed his school backpack, and left behind everything else, even his Game Boy, which his father said belonged to him. Before leaving, Daniel saw Lily standing at the bottom of the stairs, clutching a teddy bear. Danny, where are you going? She whispered. Clara wrapped her arms around Lily protectively, as if shielding her from a monster. Say goodbye, sweetheart, she said softly. Daniel's throat tightened. Goodbye, Lily, he whispered, fighting tears. His father's voice came again, cold and final. Give me your key. You're not my son anymore. Daniel stepped outside, and the door slammed behind him like a coffin lid. He wandered for hours that night, cold and terrified, with only $40 in his pocket. He couldn't go to any of his friends' houses. Clara had already called their parents, spreading her lies. He found shelter in an old warehouse near the train tracks, where a few homeless men were staying. They gave him a blanket and a spot on the floor. Rough night, kid, one of them asked. Daniel just nodded. You can stay, the man said. We've all been through something. For the next few months, that warehouse became home. He stopped going to school. There was no point. No one in town wanted him around. Even teachers who once liked him avoided him now. Clara had made sure her version of the story spread everywhere. People whispered when he walked by. Some even crossed the street. Daniel did odd jobs for food, sometimes things he wasn't proud of, but he did what he had to do to survive. He kept hoping his father would realize the truth and come find him, but that day never came. One of the men in the warehouse, an older guy named Tom, took Daniel under his wing. Tom had lost his wife years earlier and ended up on the streets after his job disappeared. You gotta keep your head up, Tom would tell him. You're young. You still got a shot. He taught Daniel how to find food banks, where to sleep safely, and how to stay warm when the nights got cold. For the first time in months, someone actually cared whether he survived. One night, the police came to clear out the warehouse. 10 minutes to pack your stuff, an officer barked. Daniel lost most of what little he had. Tom decided they should leave town. They walked all night to the next city, stopping at a truck stop diner in the morning. Daniel counted the few crumpled bills in his pocket. $27, he muttered. Tom looked at him and sighed. Kid, I got a cousin in the city who might help you. Manages a restaurant. Take this, he said, handing Daniel $40, his last. Daniel didn't want to leave Tom behind, but Tom insisted. I'm too old to start over, he said with a sad smile. But you can make it. They hugged before parting ways. Daniel took a bus to the city and slept in the station for a few nights before finally finding Tom's cousin, David. David was a kind man who managed 3 restaurants. He gave Daniel a dishwashing job and let him sleep in the storage room after closing. For the first time in a long while, Daniel felt safe. He worked hard and learned fast. David noticed his determination and started teaching him about restaurant management, costs, inventory, schedules. Daniel soaked it all up. Within months, he moved up from dishwasher to cook. One day, a customer named Aria came in with her mother. She smiled at Daniel when he brought their food. Hey, what's good here? She asked. The pasta's great, he said nervously. She laughed. You actually sound like you eat here. That moment, simple as it was, became the start of something new. Aria started coming to the restaurant often, usually with her mother. She'd always sit in Daniel's section, smiling when she saw him. You again, she'd tease. Guess I'm your favorite customer. Daniel chuckled awkwardly, still not used to kindness. Over time, their small talks turned into real conversations. She was studying business at a nearby college, and Daniel admired how confident she sounded when she talked about her goals. One slow evening, she said, You ever think of doing more than this? Daniel shrugged. I just try to survive. You could do more than survive, she said softly. One night, Aria sat in her booth, staring at her open textbook. This accounting problem makes no sense, she groaned. Daniel laughed while refilling her glass. They're probably moving numbers around to look good for investors. She looked up in surprise. How do you know about that? He hesitated before admitting, I read business books from the library sometimes. Her eyes lit up. That's amazing. Most people our age don't care about that stuff. Help me with this, then. Before he knew it, Daniel was sitting beside her, explaining the problem. From that day, Arya always brought her homework to the restaurant. Daniel would sit with her during his breaks, and her mother would watch them with a knowing smile. You two talk like old friends, she'd say. Arya laughed. That's because we are. For the first time in years, Daniel felt seen, not as the kid who'd been thrown out, but as someone worth talking to. He never told Arya about his past. It felt too dark to share. But her laughter made him believe maybe the future could be brighter. Months passed. Daniel earned his GED, studying at night after work. Arya helped him with math, cheering him on every step. See, she said one night, you're smarter than half my class. Daniel smiled shyly. Thanks to you. They sat outside the restaurant, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. So, what do you really want to do? She asked. I want to own something, he said quietly. A restaurant, maybe. A business. Something that's mine. Arya's eyes softened. Then you will. I believe in you. Those words stayed with him. 5 years went by in what felt like a blur of work, study, and growth. Daniel saved every penny, moved into a small apartment, and built a steady life. He still thought about Lily sometimes, wondering if Clara had poisoned her against him completely. But he had no way to know. Then, one night, Arya burst into the restaurant beaming. Guess what? She said, breathless. My dad's looking for someone to help manage a new real estate project. You should apply. Daniel froze. Arya, I never even finished school. You have a GED. That counts. Come on, just try. He almost refused, terrified that his past would come back to haunt him. But Arya wouldn't let it go. Please, Daniel. My dad trusts me. I know you'd be amazing. So he borrowed a suit from David, the sleeves slightly too long, and went to the interview. Arya's father, Mr. Grant, was a serious man. He studied Daniel for a full minute before speaking. Arya says you understand business. Prove it. Daniel took a deep breath and talked about real estate trends, project planning, and cost management, everything he'd read and observed. When he finished, Mr. Grant nodded slowly. You start Monday. Daniel could hardly believe it. When he told Arya, she hugged him tight. It was the first real hug he'd received in years. See, she said with a grin. I told you. That job changed everything. Mr. Grant treated him like a son, patient, respectful, guiding him instead of tearing him down. Within a year, Daniel was managing small projects, learning the business from the ground up. He finally had the kind of mentor he'd always wished his father had been. As Daniel's career grew, so did his bond with Arya. They worked late nights, drank coffee together, and shared dreams. But he still held back, afraid she'd see the broken parts of him. One night, Arya looked at him across the office table and said, You know, for someone who's so smart, you're really slow. Daniel blinked. What do you mean? I've been waiting 2 years for you to ask me out, she said with a laugh. He froze. I'm not good enough for you, Arya. Her smile faded. Try me. So, he told her everything about Clara, about the lies, about being kicked out. He expected her to walk away. Instead, she cried. Then she got angry. How could they do that to you? She said, her voice shaking. You were just a kid. When she leaned in and kissed him, Daniel felt something inside him finally heal. They started dating quietly at first, then openly. Within a year, they married. Arya's family embraced him completely. Her father even said during the wedding toast, Daniel, you're the son I never had. Daniel's life finally felt peaceful. He and Arya had a beautiful son, Ethan, and a new 5-bedroom home in a quiet neighborhood. Every morning, he'd wake to Ethan's laughter echoing down the hallway and Arya humming in the kitchen. For the first time in forever, Daniel felt safe. One afternoon, during a lunch break at work, he scrolled through Facebook and froze. A friend request. The name read Thomas Lewis, his father. The profile photo showed a much older man with gray hair and tired eyes. Daniel just stared at the screen, unable to move. When he got home, Arya noticed something was wrong right away. He sat at the table, staring blankly at his phone. "Babe, what's going on?" she asked. "It's my dad," he said quietly. "He found me." Arya reached for his hand. "What did he say?" Daniel handed her the phone. She opened the message and read out loud. "Son, it's been a long time. I've been thinking about the past. Beth and I want to make things right. Lily misses her big brother. Please give us a chance to explain." Arya frowned. "Beth too." Daniel gave a humorless laugh. "Of course." He didn't reply right away, but the words haunted him. 16 years had passed since that night.
Why now?
Eventually he wrote back. "Why now?" The reply came quickly. "I'm 58 now. Had some health scares. Life's too short for grudges. Lily's getting married soon. It would mean a lot if you came." Arya read the messages over his shoulder. "Be careful," she whispered. "People like that don't change overnight." But Daniel's heart still wanted to believe. Maybe his father had finally seen through the lies. Maybe this was his chance for closure. A few weeks later, they arrived. Daniel stood in his doorway, watching as his father, Clara, and Lily stepped out of the car. His father looked fragile, thinner, slower, the weight of years pressing down on him. Clara, on the other hand, looked almost untouched by time, still hiding behind her sweet smile. Lily was all grown up now, 24, tall, with reddish-brown hair and green eyes that reminded him too much of Martin. "You've done well for yourself," his father said, scanning the house. "Real estate development, huh? Never thought I'd see the day." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Yeah, Mr. Grant gave me a chance. Something I never got from you." The air went heavy. Arya stood near the doorway, polite but distant. Clara clasped her hands dramatically. "We all made mistakes, Daniel. We just want to move forward as a family." Arya took the hint to leave the room. "I'll check on Ethan," she said softly, disappearing down the hallway. Lily wandered around the living room, running her fingers along the picture frames. "This house is beautiful," she said with a small smile. 5 bedrooms and just one kid? Daniel forced a tight smile. "We're planning for more," he said. "And one's an office." His father stepped closer, resting a heavy hand on Daniel's shoulder. "Son, can we talk privately?" Daniel hesitated, but nodded. They went into his office, where his father sat in the leather chair like he owned it. "Your sister's starting her life," his father began. "She and her fiancé are looking for a house, but things are expensive these days." Daniel's chest tightened. "Where are you going with this?" His father gestured around the room. "You've got space, 5 bedrooms, just 3 people. You could help them out. Maybe sell the house to Lily at a good price. You make enough money to buy another." Daniel stared at him, stunned. "Are you seriously asking me to give my house to Lily?" His father sighed, like Daniel was being unreasonable. "She's your sister. You can easily get another one." Daniel's voice broke, sharp with disbelief. "The sister you threw me out for? The one you believed lies about? That sister?" "That was a misunderstanding," his father said quietly. Daniel laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "A misunderstanding? You ruined my life. I was 15, Dad. You called the cops on me." His father's face hardened. "It's in the past, son. Don't live in resentment." Before Daniel could answer, Clara stepped into the room, her fake concern perfectly timed. "Is everything okay?" she asked sweetly. Daniel smiled, cold and dangerous. "Oh, we're great. Dad's just asking me to give my house to your daughter. You know, the one who isn't even his." The room fell silent. Clara's face went pale. "What did you just say?" she whispered. Daniel stood tall. "You heard me." His father blinked, confused. "Daniel, what are you talking about?" "Ask her," Daniel said. "Ask your wife who Lily's real father is." Lily appeared at the doorway, her face full of confusion. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice trembling. Nobody answered. Clara stammered. He's lying again. He's always been jealous. But this time, Daniel didn't back down. Then prove it, he said quietly. Do a DNA test. Clara's eyes darted between Daniel and his father. Don't listen to him, she said quickly. He's trying to destroy us again. But Mr. Lewis wasn't convinced this time. He stared at Lily, really looked at her, and for the first time he saw it. The reddish hair, the unfamiliar eyes. His voice cracked. Clara, is it true? Clara tried to smile, but her lips trembled. Of course not, she snapped. You're letting him poison you again? Lily's voice shook. Mom, what is he talking about? The tension was thick enough to choke on. Daniel didn't stay for the rest of it. He walked out to the backyard where Arya was watching Ethan play with his toy trucks. One look at Daniel's face told her everything. It happened, didn't it? She said softly. Daniel nodded.
Yeah.
And it's about to get ugly. Inside, Clara was shouting, her voice growing shrill, while Lily cried in confusion. Mr. Lewis demanded a DNA test. Daniel heard the words through the window and knew he didn't need to say anything else. The truth would take care of itself now. A week later, his father came to Daniel's office, holding an envelope with trembling hands. His face was gray, his eyes hollow. Without a word, he sat down and opened it. She lied to me, he said, his voice breaking. For 24 years, she lied. Tears slid down his cheeks. Lily isn't mine. I built my whole life around a lie. Daniel sat silently, torn between anger and pity. I told you the truth years ago, he said quietly. You just never wanted to hear it. His father nodded slowly. I know, and I'll never forgive myself. For a brief moment, Daniel thought that might be the end of it, that his father would leave Clara and try to rebuild his life. But the next day, everything spiraled out of control. Clara insisted the lab had made a mistake. She shouted, broke things, and blamed everyone but herself. When Daniel got a call from Arya that evening, her voice was shaking. It's your dad, she said. He snapped. Mr. Lewis had attacked Clara after another argument. She ended up in the hospital with a fractured spine. Lily was the one who called the police. Mr. Lewis was arrested that night. The news spread fast, a respected businessman charged with assaulting his wife. The judge sentenced him to 3 years in prison, considering his age and clean record. Clara's family pushed for more time, but the court showed mercy. Clara checked into rehab not long after, addicted to the painkillers she'd secretly been using for years. Lily's world fell apart overnight. Her fiancé broke off their engagement, saying he couldn't handle the drama. She moved in with an aunt, refusing to speak to either parent. Weeks later, Lily began messaging Daniel, long, emotional texts sent late at night. I can't stop thinking about what you said. Everything feels like a lie. I don't even know who I am anymore. Daniel felt sorry for her. She was innocent in all this, a victim of her mother's lies. But Arya warned him gently, You've done your part. You can't fix their mess. She was right. Each time he replied, Lily became more dependent, more broken. Then one message shattered him. I found out Martin died 2 years ago. Overdose. Behind a convenience store. Daniel sat with his phone for a long time after reading that. For all the anger he once felt, he couldn't help but mourn the man who had unknowingly set off this chain of destruction. Lily kept writing, trying to find meaning in the ruins of her life. Daniel finally sent one last message. You didn't do anything wrong. Start fresh somewhere new. Don't let your mother's choices define you. She didn't reply right away, but a few days later, she texted, I'm leaving town. Maybe one day we can talk again. Life moved on. Arya's pregnancy was going smoothly, and their home, once tense with memories of that awful visit, now felt peaceful again. Daniel and Arya turned the spare bedroom, the one his father had wanted him to give to Lily, into a nursery. The walls were painted soft pink with tiny silver stars scattered across the ceiling. Sometimes Daniel would stand in the doorway, watching the gentle light fade across the room, and think about the path that led him there, the pain, the betrayal, the survival. He often thought of Tom, the homeless man who had given him hope when he had nothing. You still got a shot, Tom had said. And he was right. Daniel had built the life from ashes, a home, a family, a future. His father sat in prison, Clara wasted away in rehab, and Lily was trying to start over. There was no victory in any of it, only quiet peace. Funny, Daniel murmured one night, holding Aria's hand as Ethan slept beside them. Sometimes the truth doesn't set you free. It just lets you stop running.